Did you see that? Nice. Woo! Got a question. What's the deal with HOAs? That's a really good question. Are they good? Are they bad? Actually, they're not good or bad. There's just pros and then there's cons. And what comes with pros and cons? A list. I'm gonna give you my list right now. All right guys, it's a beautiful day out here. I figured we'd come out and just talk to you a little bit about HOAs, the pros, the cons. I'm only gonna give you two for each, but they're two I think that are really important. Somebody that wants to live in an HOA would like this. Amenities. So a lot of HOAs provide amenities. Some provide golf courses, some tennis courts, some pools. That's always great for people that want that. Another pro, the upkeep of the neighborhood itself. It keeps the neighborhood looking clean and nice. It keeps people from keeping cars out in their front lawns, and it keeps the yards mowed, and there's requirements and restrictions that make it to where the neighborhood looks nice, conformative, looks good. But then there's some cons for those of you that don't want to live in an HOA. So a con would be sometimes they can spring assessments on you. What's an assessment? We'll say you're building or you're buying a townhome, and that townhome has a roof that needs to be replaced. Well, most HOAs, actually about 70% of them are underfunded. So they actually don't have the money to replace the roofs. And what they're gonna do is they're gonna spring an assessment on you and everybody else in that community. Hey, they're gonna wanna take some of the money and kind of basically bump it into your price. They might say, we need an extra $70 this month from your HOA or this year or whatever. So that's something to be aware of. Another thing is that they can do a restriction on you for renting. A lot of people buy houses so that they can rent them later on. Right now it's a personal home, but what if in 2 years you decide to move and you're like, hey honey, I'd really like to use this as an investment property. But you didn't read the HOAs and the governing restrictions that say, oh, by the way, rentals aren't allowed in here. Well, now you have to sell. So those are just a few things that you need to think about, pros and cons, whether you want to live in an HOA or you don't. All right, everybody, thank you again for joining me on this episode about HOAs and what to expect, the pros, the cons. As you can see, we're here in Indian Hills Golf Course and subdivision. You got a golf course here. That's a great amenity that's provided by the HOA. You also have a clubhouse. You have a tennis court. You have a lot of things here that are great for people that want to live in a type of neighborhood like this. There's some people that don't want to do that, and if that's you, that's fine. Sometimes you just want to live out, you don't want to have those restrictions. That's okay. That's where I come in. That's where you want to sit down with me. I'm your guy. We'll sit down, we'll talk about what you want in an HOA if you want one, and if you don't, no problem. We can go search for a house like that. This is Derek, trainer with Compass Real Estate. Thank you again for joining us on this episode. I'm just here to help you make one of the smartest decisions with one of the biggest investments of your entire life. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, so who am I? Who am I?
Say again.
Lied.
Springing a says, okay.
No one has a free hand. Hey,